So recently, if Akali had taken over Emmerich and becoming the #1 OC player, there's been a bit of controversy about his situation right now, and especially the speed meta, where it seems like the OSU consensus about the speed meta is that it's very overweighted, because if you look at maps like Akali's top plays, like Sidetrack Day, Valve the Quandale, Sidetrack Day, like he'd be playing these maps and he's gaining a lot of PP on them, and people are questioning, should these maps even give that much PP, because we've had things like the Flow A meta and the Wu-Teen and the Rapid Trigger coming out. It makes speed a lot easier compared to playing aim nowadays, which seems a lot more underweighted in comparison. So as all of that, the community has made efforts to essentially address these things, such as the streams nerf PP proposal that recently came out, where it essentially nerfs every stream map in the game, like every curvy map, while it buffs maps with like weird sharp angles and also buffs jump maps a bit. Like, this was a pretty decent rework to address this. And there's also other things like the combo scaling removal, where people are pretty happy about it, where it essentially punishes you less if you fuck them in the middle, but like FC literally everything else. But behind the scenes of the PP proposal seems to be a bit darker, where I saw this Reddit post on OSU game subreddit where this guy named Pablo, who's a bit of a controversial taker recently, where this guy basically exposed some things about the PP work. He's essentially exposing the dark Hollywood secrets about the PP rework, and it's a very big yap, and I'm not going to read it all to you guys, but I'm just going to give you guys the general consensus about it and just give my thoughts about it, and just want to reveal to guys the PP rework situation right now. So before I address his points, I want to ask the question, what is a good PP rework? A good PP meta right now, like not just like a good PP rework just in general, a good PP rework would be one where all the maps are essentially balanced. But what does balanced even mean? Because players, it's not like OC players are going to be balanced in all their skill sets all the time. Most OC players are pretty niched in one skill set. People are either the stream player, people are either going to be the jump player, people are going to be the DT player, people are going to be the hard rock player. Like, people are pretty niche in their skill sets, and they usually farm one type of skill set. It's pretty hard to balance around like a lot of maps. Like, it's pretty hard to say, okay, well, this map is all like 6 stars. Like, it's pretty hard to balance that difficulty. So balancing the PP work in practice is pretty hard to do, but in theory, a good PP work would be if every map was balanced. So if we had an objective difficulty rating given to every map, but that's pretty hard to say and also do in theory, honestly. Like, I'm trying to think about it, but like my brain is fizzling out, like trying to think about this stuff. But a good PP work is assuming that every map in the game is balanced and according to what balanced even means. But in practicality, of course, that's pretty difficult right now, especially in the past. We had like a very overweighted jump meta, but now we have an overweighted speed meta. Like, it's pretty hard to balance things around, and people have been making these proposals, as I said before. But I also want to alert you guys to some darker secrets about the PP works, and also give you guys a bit more insight about the whole situation. So this Pablo post that I was mentioning earlier, I'm going to give you guys the basic consensus about it, but he essentially said, okay, well, the general consensus about the PP work dev team is that there's apparently this huge Discord server where they essentially converse around, okay, well, maybe we should have this a PP meta, or maybe we should change this. Like, people are basically having these conversations, basically like a scholars group about PP meta. But the thing about this is that it's essentially a free-for-all. There's no barrier of entry. You can literally join in and start yapping about your own proposal. So that essentially lowers the barrier of entry and allows anyone with their own agendas to come in and essentially advertise their own proposal. And if they advertise it enough, then they can be like, okay, well, I'm going to push this as an actual proposal, and it would actually get through and actually be implemented as a PP work. Like, the whole process to get a PP proposal is actually pretty streamlined. It's not as hard as you might think. But you guys are probably thinking, how is this even allowed? Like, how are they allowing the bad actors? Isn't there some sort of approval system where there's like a border patrol where they're like, oh, well, this PP proposal is actually good or not? Like, you guys are probably thinking this is a thing. Well, there actually is an attempt to it, right? There's actually something called a PP committee for this whole PP dev team, where they actually look at it and be like, okay, maybe this is good or bad. But the thing about it is that it seems like this PP committee is actually very incompetent. So they actually have a bit of a hands-off approach, and it seems like that they don't really know what an objective good PP meta is or what a bad one is. Like, they can't really tell the difference between strengths and weaknesses. They kind of just agree to whatever people are pushing for their own agendas and kind of just conform to whatever the fuck people are saying. And it seems like that's what the PP committee is right now. It seems like they're very incompetent, and as a result of that, the system allows people to push with their own bad agendas to come in and be like, okay, well, I want a tech meta, so I'm going to push and advertise that, and I'm going to get through that to PP committee, and that actually could get proposed later as a tech meta. Like, something like that can actually happen in the current system. So as a result all of that, the whole PP system was actually very flawed, where it allows these people with these bad agendas to come in. So for example, in 2022, we had the statistical act PP work that came in. These people actually came in with their own self-interest. Like, I don't actually remember what the heck that PP work was supposed to be about, but it seems like the whole general consensus was that we're going to buff TV DT size jumps. And you guys are probably thinking, okay, well, that's pretty nice for the jumps. But then if you think about it and look at the people who are actually pushing it, their agenda is that they actually have TV DT size jumps in their top plays. And they're actually pushing this agenda because they're self-motivated and intrinsically motivated instead of trying to balance the whole PP meta to be better for the whole game. So that's what happened in 2022 and is happening on nowadays. And to add even more oil to the fire here, there was another post below this post where this guy was basically yapping a bit more. Like, this is the guy who actually pushed statistical act PP work, I believe, but he basically gave his own opinions about the whole PP work, where there's some more bad things, or essentially there's like a weird thing of like low BPM versus high BPM streams. Like, if they have the same spacing, high BPM streams actually get lesser difficulty for some reason. Like, that's a weird oversight, right? This faster streams should actually be harder to do, but they get freaking nerfed. Like, I don't really get that. And there's also something where there's a bit of a lack of linearity compared to like CS0 and CS4 difficulty increases. So for example, if you have a CS4 map but then turn into a CS0 map, which is like big ass circles, the difficulty actually doesn't get decreased that much in the star rating, which is weird because the map should be a lot easier to aim now, but you're saying the difficulty changes only by a little bit. Like, that's a pretty weird oversight as well. And there's also the other thing where this guy's basically saying the statistical accuracy PP work, or essentially high OD maps, they don't actually get buffed as hard as they should be. So for example, OD12 is really hard to get like a SS on, right? But despite that, getting like a 96% AC on OD12 is still pretty impressive. But the PP system, the statistical accuracy one, they're going to look at it and be like a 96% AC, that's pretty shit, even though it's OD12. Like, they're going to look at it and not even reward you that much PP for it. But if you're going to look at like an OD10 map and it's 99% AC, they'll be like, oh, that's pretty PogChamp. Like, they basically nerf maps that are higher OD. And this could be a pretty bad oversight later on in Laser, where if they actually rank difficulty adjust and allow you to adjust like the difficulty value, so the overall difficulty, you can turn it from like an OD12 map to like OD10, and it's a lot easier to AC, but it would actually give you more PP because it's OD10 and you can actually get like a 99% AC on it instead of like a 96% on OD12. Like, that's a pretty bad oversight as well. And overall, I agree with these guys' takes right here, where if assuming this is all true, and I don't believe that they would lie about it, then this is a pretty bad thing about the PP work. And it seems like the most actual thing that you guys can do as the consumers of OSU is to be like, okay, well, I should think a bit more critically about what the agendas people are pushing when they're making their own PP reworks here. So you got to look at, okay, well, who's pushing this? Are they actually doing it for their own interest, or they're trying to balance the whole OSU game as a whole? Like, you got to think about these things and decide which PP works you decide to support or not based off those parameters. But overall, I just wanted to give this PP work situation right here. I didn't want to read everything because I keep fumbling my words. This is like my 5th time recording this video, dude. Like, I just want to freaking go to bed. But I just want to give one last thing before I end this video, where recently I got employed, so I'm going to be working as a freaking engineer, like doing some crazy engineering shit, right? But as a result of that, my life has got a bit more hectic, and I made like a YouTube community post where I essentially addressed it and saw like, guys, even though I'm getting a lot more busy nowadays, I'm not going to fail to upload daily. If I ever fail to upload a day, then it's because I got super freaking busy and something freaking happened. I don't know, but that's not very likely to happen because I don't really like to give myself those excuses. I will lose sleep over making the video if I have to. So that's all I want to say in this video, and just want to give you guys that warning right there, and also just talk about the PP work situation, because it seems like it's a bit more flawed than we believed. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say. I hope this video opens some of you guys' eyes and makes you guys think more critically and not just blindly follow whatever PP work comes out, because people have their own interest and agenda, just like anything outside of OSU, like the government wise, for example. But I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole. You guys can go look that down yourself. Maybe I'll yap about it some other time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see y'all.